I want to talk today about a really common book marketing mistake that I'm seeing quite a lot of self-published writers make, and I really want to make sure that you don't make the same mistake. The common place that I'm noticing quite a lot of self-published writers finding themselves in is that they have a book, so the book is ready to be sold, and they are marketing the book, but they're also saying to me that they have no idea what they're doing. So let's just zoom out of this moment for a second. What we've got is a writer who has got this beautiful book idea, this book that they've been working on for a considerable amount of time, and they've published the book, and yet they still don't know what they're doing when it comes to marketing. Now, this to me is such a sad place to be in, because it means that you've got a product and that product is ready to be in people's hands, but you're not sure how to get it into people's hands. And so I think this for me is one of the most common and yet one of the most serious mistakes that many beautiful creative souls are making, i.e. that they think it's okay to be in this place, and in fact that it's quite normal to be in this place. It's normal to be marketing a book and not know what you're doing. And a lot of this is based on timing, and a lot of this is based on what I call the lizard brain, which is a very old part of our brain, which is a part of our brain that makes us want to act really fast or take action really fast, but without thinking about things rationally. So let's start to break it down. It might be that you have a book and you really want to get that book out there. You're like, oh my God, this book has to get into people's hands. And what happens then is that you listen to that thought and you start to take action and you move too quickly, i.e. you publish the book and it's ready to get into people's hands, but you haven't yet thought about what you're doing. You haven't yet thought about your marketing campaign. You haven't yet thought about how you're going to build an audience around the book. And so what's happened here is you've listened to this lizard part of the brain which is saying to you, act fast, but the lizard part of the brain doesn't have any rational thinking, which is why we find ourselves in a situation that we have planted ourselves in, yet with very little understanding of how to deal with that situation. So what would I advise somebody to do in this predicament? Of course, we can't undo the fact that that book has been published, but what we want to start doing is we want to start creating a really decent, sustainable plan. So what I suggest people do in this place, like if I'm working with a client or I'm taking a consultation from someone who's like, help, I've self-published my book and now I need to market this book and I've got no idea what I'm doing. We first of all work to create an ideal situation. So I might say to that person, what would be the ideal situation in terms of how many book sales you want to be creating each month? So we create essentially a boundary, or we create some perimeters that we can then work within. So how many books do you want to be selling each month? Or how much money do you want to be creating each month from your book sales? Or how many events do you want to be hosting each month, and how many book sales do you want to be having at those events? So you want to have some tangible number or some tangible goal that you're working to. And you want to place that goal at some point in the future, because again, a lot of people are really panicking because they're not selling books right now. I don't know what I'm doing right now, and I'm not selling books right now. And of course, all that leads to is more panic and more stress. But when we have that goal in the future, so for example, in 6 months' time, I want to be selling 500 books a month, or in a year's time, I want to be hosting 2 events a month, and at each event I want to be selling 300 books. Then we've got something to work towards. So then what you do is you create that perimeter, that boundary, you create that ideal situation, and then essentially you turn around and you work your way back to where you are now. So say you create an ideal situation that in 12 months' time you're going to be selling 500 books a month. Great, now you know what you're working towards. So if that's the ideal situation for 12 months, then you ask yourself, well, where would I be at 11 months? So you might be like, okay, well, at 11 months, maybe I've sold 250 books. And then that means that by the 12th month, I've figured out how to double those sales. And so you work your way back, and then that means that when you find yourself in this current moment with perhaps maybe 5 book sales a month or 100 book sales a month, you're not freaking out because you can see, this is where I need to start in order to get to that place in 12 months' time. But what this does is it enables you to take your time while doing it. So you're not suddenly panicking because you've got a book out, you're not selling as many copies as you want to sell, and you've got no idea what you're doing. What it means is that month by month, as time goes on, you're like, okay, this is the month that I begin to learn how to create a really captivating social media profile on Twitter. And this is the month that I learn how to start engaging with my followers on Twitter. And this is the month that I perhaps start to learn about the kind of content that I'm going to be putting out that's going to be letting people know about who I am and what my book is about. So you're not suddenly thinking that you have to do everything at once. And that means that every month you're coming to your work with a set of very clear eyes that say, these are the skills that I'm going to be learning this month. So it might be in the second month, you're like, right, the skills that I'm going to be learning in this month is how to host an online event and how to publicize that online event. And so that means that all of the skills and the tasks and the things on your to-do list, they're much more manageable. So let's just step back and break it down again. If you find yourself in that place where you've brought a book out, but you've got no idea what you're doing in terms of the marketing, you want to see yourself at a future point, I would suggest either 6 to 12 months, and you write down what that ideal situation is that you want. And then you turn around and you work your way backwards, looking at each month, well, what would I have had to have learnt this month in order to make sure that I'm on that way to create that ideal situation? Let me know in the comments also, let me know where you are in your publishing journey. Have you already brought a book out? Are you trying to build an audience around that book? Are you trying to figure out how to create sales of your book? Or are you thinking about self-publishing? Has this video given you some ideas about what you need to make sure is in place before you self-publish that book? So if you've got questions or you've got things that you want to share, put them down in the comments, and then that way I can chat with you in the comments and I can give you additional support or additional insight. And also, if you feel that you're having an absolute social media nightmare, like if you really don't know where to even start when it comes to your marketing, then you might want to check out my Social Sanctuary. There'll be a link below and you'll be able to head on over to my website. The Social Sanctuary is an online course that I've put together to help people who are in that place of wanting to market a book or a product. But what you'll be able to grab from the website is my first free masterclass that's going to give you so many insights into how to gather an audience around what you're doing, how to really make sure that you're following your purpose when it comes to what you're trying to sell online, when it comes to your book. So the link to the Social Sanctuary is below and you'll be able to grab that free masterclass, which is going to be super helpful for where you're at. Really wishing you so much luck in your self-publishing journey, in your marketing journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.